with the last part of the chapter, that is technological and institutional reforms. Why is it required? What is the need to change? What are these reforms? That is what we are going to see in this part. Agriculture has been practiced in India for thousands of years. Sustained use of land without compatible technological institutional changes have hindered the pace of agricultural development. In the introduction part itself, I have mentioned that there are no compatible technological institutional changes, correct? Developed sources of irrigation are present in our country, but still most of the farmers in large parts of the country still depend upon monsoon and natural fertility in order to carry on their agriculture. For a growing population, this is a very serious challenge. Agriculture, which provides livelihood for more than 60% of its population, requires some serious technical and institutional reforms. Understand the institutional reforms which were brought in our country after independence. Collectivization, consolidation of land holdings, cooperation, and abolition of zamindari were given priority to bring about institutional reforms in the country after independence. Let's understand this one after another. Now, we have come across the word collective farming, right, in ninth standard history. It is an agricultural production in which multiple farmers run their holding as joint enterprise, correct? And these farms are owned directly by the centralized government, right? In our country, when we talk about collectivization, so we have various organizations. So current one is the Farmers Producers Organization, FPOs, all right? So they mobilize the farmers in order to seek and improve their economic and social situation and that of their communities too, that is of their rural area too. But the major hindrance of collectivization in our country, even today, is the small land holdings of the farmers. Collectivization is done in order to gain sustained agriculture growth and food security. All right. So, with the help of collectivization, Indian government tried to bring in for the small marginal farmers better bargaining power, better market and price, then access to credit and insurance. Okay, so these were the things which the Indian government was trying to seek after independence, and even today it is trying to bring in collectivization by encouraging private investment in this sector now. All right. Next one is the consolidation of land holdings. Land Ceiling Act defined the size of the land that an individual or a family can own. In India, by 1961-62, all the state government had passed the Land Ceiling Act. This Land Ceiling Act also deals with the acquisition of the surplus land and its redistribution among the small farmers and landless workers. In India, after independence, almost all states except Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Manipur, Nagaland, Tripura, and part of Andhra Pradesh enacted laws for consolidation of landholding. But the nature of legislation and the degree of success achieved in each and every state varied. Next step for the Land Reform Act was to abolish the zamindars. Okay, so who worked under the feudal lords. They would collect rent for the British and they would allow large share of the surplus from the land to be extracted from the tenants. So most states had passed legislation to abolish this zamindars. So these were the land reforms which was the main focus of our first 5-year plan after independence. I hope you have understood collectivization, consolidation of landholding, cooperation and abolition of zamindari. Now let's go through the points which are there in the textbook. whatever we have discussed, those same points are there. I'm just going to read it one after another. The right of inheritance had already led to fragmentation of land holdings, necessitating consolidation of holdings. Correct. So, as the right of inheritance, so as because of which the land was divided among the children of one farmer, and so the land was getting redistributed into small pieces. It was getting fragmented, right? So it was very necessary that we bring in consolidation of land holdings. Okay, proper share will be given to each and every farmer. The laws of land reforms were enacted, but the implementation was lacking or lukewarm. So as per the state government, so these land reforms were enacted, but they were not properly implemented in each and every state. Government of India embarked upon introducing agricultural reforms to improve Indian agriculture in 1960 and 1970. So all these reforms, these agricultural reforms, were brought in by Government of India in the year 1960, in this 10-year span, 1960 and 1970. All right. The Green Revolution, based on the use of package technology, and the White Revolution, Operation Flood, were some of the strategies initiated to improve improve the Indian agriculture. All right. So under these schemes, under the agricultural reforms, Green Revolution was launched and White Revolution was launched in order to improve agriculture in our country, in order to improve life of farmers and economic status of most of the rural regions. Let us continue. So these reforms, which were brought in 1960 and 70, it led to the concentration of development in only few selected areas, in only few selected states. All right, the complete region of India was not getting developed. All the rural zones in our country were not getting developed at the same pace. Therefore, in 1980 and 1990, a comprehensive land development program was initiated, which included both institutional and technical reforms. All right, so provision for crop insurance against drought, flood, cyclone, fire, and disease. Then establishment of various Grameen banks, cooperative societies, and banks for providing loan facilities to the farmers at lower interest rate were some important steps in this direction. All right, so what happened in 1980 and 1990? There was a comprehensive land development program. So it was an institutional reform as well as a technical reform. So we have seen the institutional reforms. Technical reforms were that they were making provisions for crop insurances against drought, flood, cyclone, fire, disease. Okay, they were establishing Grameen banks so that farmers start taking loan from bank instead of taking it from landlord, and they will not be in debt trap. That is what government was trying to do. All right, so and the bank was providing loan at the low interest rate. Even today it is happening in the same way. These are the important steps which were taken and even today are taken by the government. Kisan credit card, personal accident insurance scheme are some other schemes introduced by the government of India for the benefit of the farmers. Moreover, special weather bulletins and agricultural programs. Do you remember the music which I played before I started this chapter? So yes, that is the title song of the program, which is even today on DD Doordarshan, which goes on for half an hour, which provides information to the farmers regarding agriculture. So various agricultural programs for farmers were introduced on the radio and television. Government also announces minimum support price, remunerative and procurement prices for important crops to check the exploitation of farmers by speculators and middlemen. Remember the remunerative and procurement price? which we had learned in 9th standard textbook of economics. Procurement price of a commodity refers to the price at which government procures the commodity from producers or manufacturers for maintaining the buffer stock. All right, so over here government is going to procure the crops from the farmers in order to maintain the buffer stock in the public distribution system. All right, procurement price also becomes the MSP, minimum support price. Remunerative price is the minimum price at which sugarcane, it's an example, sugarcane is to be purchased by the sugar mill owners from farmers. They cannot bargain that below this 10 rupees, 15 rupees you have to sell one sugarcane to me. No. Government has decided the price. That minimum price is 10 rupees. So below that nobody can ask the farmers to sell their crop. Okay. So at which rate sugarcane is to be purchased, or the produce of the farmer has to be purchased by the mill owners from the farmers, because ultimately whatever is produced in the farm will be sent to the manufacturing industry or will be sold off in the market to the middleman, correct? Then it will be sold off to us, correct? So this price is determined by the government. So below that price none of the farmer can, or none of the manufacturer can take the produce from the farmer. This remunerative price is fixed by the union government, okay, on the basis of the recommendation of the Commission for Agricultural Cost and Prices. Remember this. Now we have understood that there were two revolutions which took place between 1960 and 1970, and those were White Revolution and the Green Revolution. Now let us understand about one more revolution, and that was known as the Bloodless Revolution. Let's go through or understand the story behind it. Alright, Mahatma Gandhi declared Vinoba Bhave as his spiritual heir. He also participated in Satyagraha as one of the foremost Satyagrahi. He was one of the votaries of Gandhian concept of Gram Swarajya. Who is a votary? A person such as a monk who has made vows of dedicating himself to religious services. All right. So he was one of the votaries of Gandhian concept of Gram Swarajya. After Gandhiji's death, Vinoba Bhave undertook Padayatra to spread Gandhiji's message, covered almost the entire country. Once, when he was delivering a lecture at Pochampalli in Andhra Pradesh, some poor landless villagers demanded some land for their economic well-being. Vinoba Bhave could not promise it to them immediately, but assured them to talk to the government of India regarding provisions of land for them if they undertook cooperative farming. Suddenly, Sri Ramachandra Reddy stood up and offered 80 acres of land to be distributed among 80 landless villagers. This act was known as Bhudan. Okay, so he gave away his land. As a charity, he gave away his land. So Bhudan. Later he travelled and introduced his idea widely all over India. Some zamindars, owners of many villages, offered to distribute some villages among the landless. So there were zamindars who owned many villages together, and so they decided to distribute some of the villages among the landless laborers. It was known as the Gram Dan because one whole village was allocated, given away to the landless laborers by this zamindar. So it was known as the Gram Dan. However, many landowners chose to provide some part of their land to the poor farmers due to the fear of Land Sealing Act. So we know that the Land Sealing Act was introduced, and instead of government doing this part of sealing their land, okay, these zamindars decided that they should hand over part of those land, part of those villages to these landless laborers on their own. Okay, so this Bhudan Gramdan movement initiated by Vinoba Bhave is known as the Bloodless Revolution. It is asked as a short note as explain Bhudan Gramdan or explain the bloodless revolution which took place in India during 1960s 1970s. Okay, remember.